Welcome to another edition of the IIT Madras Trivandrum chapter Fireside Chat. This is the fifth edition, and today I'm really delighted to have with me Dr. Jayakumar, who was the founding MD and CEO of Vizhinjam International Seaport Limited. And this is a very, very interesting topic because it has both a strategic angle and an economic angle, or should I say, a strategic in terms of national power angle, as well as a strategic in terms of economic power angle as well. And many people may not be aware of what a big deal this is. So I will follow this procedure, which is I will introduce Dr. Jayakumar, and then I'll ask him to make a 5 minute opening statement. And after that, based on his opening statement, I'll ask him a bunch of questions. And this will go on for about 40 to 45 minutes. And in the meantime, I request any of you who are in the live audience to go to your chat button at the bottom. It's there, it says chat. You can click on it, and your questions can be entered there. But I'm not going to ask those questions in real time. Okay, I'll ask them after the first 45, 50 minutes or so. Last 10 minutes we'll devote to your questions. Okay, so without further ado, let me just give you a brief introduction and a welcome to Dr. Jayakumar. Dr. Jayakumar was the founding CEO and managing director of India's first deepwater container port, or container transshipment port, I should be clear about, the Vizhinjam International Seaport Limited in Trivandrum. The first phase of this port is now operational, and it has handled literally the largest container ship in the world, MSC Irina. Dr. Jayakumar is instrumental in conceptualizing, planning, and implementing the port. He was a member of the Kerala Maritime Board. Earlier, he was the CEO of Pondicherry Port and Special Economic Zone. His MTech and PhD in ocean engineering are both from IIT Madras. As the construction head of the Wave Engineering project at IIT Madras, he successfully managed the implementation of India's pilot wave power project off Vizhinjam to generate electricity from the ocean waves. He is the recipient of numerous awards. Among other honors, in 1924, he was awarded a dual doctorate by the European International University Paris, along with UAE University, for his contributions in the ports and maritime sector. So it's great to have you on board, Dr. Jayakumar. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. May I request you to spend about 5 minutes giving your opening statement now?
Yeah. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for the nice introduction. Good evening to all of you. Anyway, first of all, let me thank IITMAA for giving me this opportunity to interact with you people. Now, coming to the ports. Ports is actually the topic of the day. And because having worked in Vizhinjam Port, I'll just talk about what ports are, why Vizhinjam should be developed, and what are the features, and what is the status like that. So I'll start with, ports play a very important role in the economic development of India. And we are surrounded on three sides by water, and about 95% of India's foreign trade by volume and 70% by value happens through maritime transportation. That is, if you look at our exchange trade, I think last fiscal, it was something like 1,800 billion US dollars. So which 1,000 billion may be exports and imports, and 800 billion must be the exports. So this foreign trade, the responsible for this trade and economic growth are our ports, and of course the shipping lines also. And if you see, we have a coastline of 7,500 odd kilometers, studded with 12 major ports and around 200 non-major ports. And these major and non-major ports are not defined in terms of its size or its sizes. Major ports are those which come under the Government of India as control, and non-major ports are under the control of the respective state governments. Out of the 200, all may not be operable, I think only 100 or 140 are in operable condition of the non-major ports. And however, despite having so many ports in the country, majority of the ports rely either on direct services or use far-off ports in other countries for transshipment needs, mainly for containers. Here, I'll be talking only on containers because there are other forms of other types of cargo, but here container transshipment or container terminals are predominantly being discussed. So I'm just pinning down to containers. And about 75% of India's transshipped cargo is handled at ports outside India, like Colombo, Dubai, Singapore, Portland, which are relatively of large water depths. And 80% of this volume is carried out by the Colombo port alone. So this results in a significant loss of foreign exchange to the tune of almost 2,000 crores every year, besides port revenues that would have accrued to us had we had a port like this, a deep water port in our soil. All these put together, what happens, the implication is the cost of manufacturing and our products are gone up, are going up. So this is due to low water depths in our ports, which could not accommodate the increased or the increasing sizes of vessels. That is the mother vessels we can call. The large vessels which carry a lot of containers or boxes are called as mother vessels. So with this rapid growth of containerization and economies of scale, the ship sizes are increasing rapidly. And as a result, we need ports which are very deep. And we don't have that such type of deep water ports in our soil, and that too hugging very close to the shipping lines. And moreover, these types of mother vessels, they prefer to call at the deep water ports which are very close to the international shipping lines. So because of this difficulty was felt in the early 2000s, and it was felt that India wanted or needed a deep water container transshipment matching the ports like Colombo, Dubai, or Singapore, where they have depths of the order of 17 meters and above and more. So Vizhinjam emerged as the perfect choice when that point was discussed or at the government level and so on. Earlier, when we started, there were earlier attempts to develop the port at Vizhinjam. That is during the period of the late Diwan Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer, and in the 91 when we wanted to develop the port when the government was in power, when the democratic government was in power. But at that time, this concept of transshipment was not in the air. So we were talking about a regular port, an ordinary port like any other port, like Mumbai or Chennai or things like that. So in the early 2000s, the concept of transshipment triggered, and then we started looking at in that fashion. And why Vizhinjam was chosen is because Vizhinjam is at the bottom end of the funnel. Or if you look at the Indian Peninsula, Vizhinjam is at the bottommost point. And very close to the peninsula runs all the major shipping lines, which carry more than 30% of the world cargo. So these are very important from the point of economics and from the point of logistics. And we have, if you look at Vizhinjam, the natural water depths are about the order of 20 meters we get if you go just 1 kilometer off the coast. So, and these are very, very distinctive advantages of Vizhinjam. And if you look at Vizhinjam again, it is central to the coastline, as I said. And another very striking feature of Vizhinjam is the particular location there is very little minimum littoral drift, which means that there is hardly any maintenance dredging required once the port is operational, unlike other ports. So because of these factors, Vizhinjam was chosen, and for the purpose of development, a DPR, a detailed project report was prepared by L&T in the year 2004. And with that, tenders were floated by the government. And a Chinese company came, and because of security reasons, they were denied the concession. And
So
later,
now, if I may
yeah,
interrupt, so now it's with Adani Ports, right? Adani is the
yeah.
PPP
After
partner.
correct. After this exercise, several repeated unsuccessful attempts were made to tender, and finally culminated in a successful bid in 2015, where Adani Ports and SEZ came in, and we signed a concession agreement. They started the work in 2015 December, and they were supposed to complete it by 2019, but because of several reasons, it went up to 2024, and the port was commissioned in 2024. The port is designed to handle ultra large container vessels, that is surpassing 18 meters depth, and even Vizhinjam can cater to the futuristic vessels too. And the initial capacity in first phase, it is 1 million TEU, which can go up to 5 million when the entire length of the berth is completed for a length of 2 kilometers.
Okay,
So
so
this is the
the
status
first,
now.
thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
thank you for that overview. So the first phase is essentially complete now,
yeah,
and that means it can handle the very largest container ships, the ultra large cargo carriers in the world, right? It has handled
yeah.
them. And then the second phase is supposed to be completed by 2028, I believe, right?
Correct.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, this is something of, a great local pride for me because this is Trivandrum. This is the port of Trivandrum. And all of a sudden, it's become extremely important for the nation in
yeah.
general. So that's great news. So thank you for explaining the idea of transshipment, which is that you have a giant mothership coming there with, I don't know, a large number of containers, what, maybe 20,000
More
containers?
than 500 vessels have come in the last 10 months
Right.
since the
No, I
port has
mean,
been. Yeah,
the largest container vessels are like 20,000 containers or something.
24,000,
24,000.
24,400. Yeah,
Right. So you have
MSC
these
Arena. Yeah,
Irina, which
mm,
did dock here. Right.
mm.
So 24,000, and they're planning to build even bigger ships, if I understand correctly, right? And I I believe that with the 24-meter draft that you mentioned in Port of Trivandrum, Vizhinjam, we should be able to handle them. And the point here is that the large ship comes and docks, and automatically, I guess, with a great deal of automation, the containers are transferred to smaller ships, which can then go to the other major minor ports in
So
India, right?
by feeder vessels to other
By
ports.
feeder
Yeah,
vessels. So that's
yeah,
great. So that's what transshipment is.
yeah.
But one question that has always been in my mind is, see, Trivandrum is kind of in a, as you said, is a funnel, sort of way in the south. What about cargo from, say, Hyderabad or Bangalore or something? Shouldn't that also be of interest to the shipping companies?
Yeah, Vizhinjam Port has been conceived as a transshipment port. The
Yeah.
objective was to establish a container transshipment port, deep water container transshipment port. However, about 15% of the cargo was considered as the gateway traffic. Of course,
Gateway.
only with the gateway traffic, even transshipment vessels also prefer to come at a port where there is a gateway traffic to
Okay.
take care of as a buffer, because that will also add revenue to their the shipping lines and to the port and all. So
Right.
if you now for transporting these containers, the road and rail connectivity works are going in good progress. The rail connectivity, of course, it has to start, but all the project report, everything is done, and the rail
Okay.
and the road connectivity is almost ready. Not the Pakka road connectivity connecting the highway, but through a service road. Now with the ICP status and the container gate has been opened, so the gateway traffic will start going.
So
And
what is ICP? What is
ICP is an
ICP?
integrated checkpoint of the immigration and customs just 2 days back. So now the gateway cargo can go out and come in.
Right.
Even the transshipment cargo can be taken to other places. Now, another advantage because of the geography of this location is that if you see, it's like a V shape, and Vizhinjam is at the bottommost end. And even without a feeder vessel, the transshipment container can be taken by road or rail when these two systems are in place to any part, to many places in the southern region, even up
Right.
to Hyderabad. They can be taken within a period of 24 to 48 hours time. That is much better than a feeder service going,
Right.
unloading it at Chennai or going in. So that advantage we have. Though
Right.
there is a remote possible, the geographical remoteness is there, as you
Right.
mentioned.
Right. But
Yeah.
so you mentioned two points or two definitions: transshipment, which is the main activity there, but also, as you said, gateway traffic, which is for local exporters. So that should, presumably once the gateway traffic also increases, it should reduce the shipping time and therefore the cost for Indian manufacturers, I assume. And
Yeah.
one of the points that you mentioned in passing is a large savings that Indian manufacturers, the country as a whole, will gain from moving traffic away from Colombo or Singapore or something. I read somewhere that your first phase cost was about $1 billion, about 8,500 or so crores. But I also read at a fantastic return on investment that the country as a whole, not the government alone, will save some $200 million every year in reduced
Correct.
shipping costs. Okay, which is to me, as a business proposition, is a terrific return on investment. So, more power to that. And I also read in passing somewhere that the government has this Sagarmala initiative. They're talking about 25,000 crores to be invested over the next few years. I guess till 2047. They have a maritime, what is it, Maritime India plan or something like that.
Maritime India vision of yeah.
Maritime India mission, right? So it's great to hear that India is now recognizing its maritime heritage in a way and trying to capture it. Because one of the things that interested me is the fact that India, in fact, had a very good trade relationship across the Arabian Sea and maybe even across the Bay of Bengal, because we have a history of Roman ships and Arab ships coming, especially to two ports, right? One is Barucha in Gujarat, and the other was Muziris in Kerala. I mean, this goes like 2,500 plus years back. And then there was the other story of Rajaraja Chola bringing a huge fleet all the way across the Bay of Bengal to Sumatra to defeat the Srivijaya Empire there. And if I'm not mistaken, his intent was not conquest, it was trade. I believe the Srivijaya Empire in Sumatra was interfering with Chola trade to the Song Empire in China. So we have a great maritime history, right? And it must have been
Yeah.
extremely lucrative. Now, I also believe, you mentioned that something like 75% to 80% of India's trade is maritime. We hear a lot about the Silk Route, right, which is on land. People were going from the Middle East to China. I cannot imagine that they had abilities to carry lots of cargo because it's a caravan, right? Somebody's bring a bunch of camels or horses or something. So the shipping route, the Silk Route, must have been significantly overshadowed by the spice route. That's sort of my
So true.
feeling,
Yeah.
right? And then
Mm.
again, to bring some more incidental information into this, there is this proposal for an IMEC, right? India, Middle East, Europe corridor, right? Which would bypass the Suez. So I'm just trying to say that there is an enormous amount of activity happening on the maritime front, and I'm really delighted to have you here as somebody who's been, instrumental in making this happen. So, you mentioned a couple of things about Vizhinjam, Trivandrum that's very attractive. One is you said the deep water port, 24 meters, which is fantastic, and very close to the shipping lines that
Just
go
10
through the
nautical
Indian Ocean,
miles away. Yeah.
10 nautical miles away. So, in that case, what is the actual competition for the port of Trivandrum, Vizhinjam? Um,
Uh,
yeah, you
yeah.
mentioned Colombo, right? What else?
Actually, Colombo is the only competitor to Vizhinjam.
Okay.
Yeah, because no other ports are in competition with Vizhinjam port. The
Okay.
international competition would be actually it has to be from Colombo, Singapore, Klang, and Malaysia. But if you
Yeah.
look at the 75% of the transshipment happening, 60%, or that's 80% of that 75% is
Yeah.
handled by Colombo. So it's
Colombo.
actually the Colombo, the competition will be with Colombo, and
With
no other
Colombo.
ports which are
Yeah.
like Vadwan or Galatia Bay coming in, Andamans, they are not at all a competitor. They will only complement to our to our port at Vizhinjam. And
Right.
at Vizhinjam, with this water depth, no other ports in the vicinity will have this much water depth. And and not only that, with the increasing sizes of vessels, which need to be handled even in the future. And
Okay.
so it is
Yeah.
basically with Colombo.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's sort of a we're building this nation is building a network of deep water ports, and he said Vadwan may be focused on northwest. Madhwan is somewhere in
In Maharashtra,
Maharashtra, right? So it must be
see, it
looking
is
at the
intended, yeah,
north
it
and
is
west.
intended, it is not in the northwest. It is
Okay.
intended to significantly, what you call, boost our container handling capacity. There, we are expecting about 25 million TUs to be handled by year 2040. So that
Okay.
Vadwan cannot be a transshipment port at all.
Okay.
It
It's a
can only,
gateway port.
it can be a direct, for direct calls, it can hold good because it has a very large hinterland. And
Right.
Vizhinjam can complement to Vadwan because the Vizhinjam transshipment for Vadwan port can happen at Vizhinjam instead of
Okay.
Colombo. So in
Okay.
that way, Vizhinjam and Vadwan will be
Complement.
in a win-win situation.
Right.
Whereas Galatia Bay is too far
Yeah.
from our Indian ports, but that is at a choke point near the Indonesia, and
Right.
that more than a transshipment, or I would say, transshipment plus the strategic purpose would be the Galatia Bay. There also you
Right.
have 20, 25 meters. Yeah,
Right. That's Galathea Bay, also known as Great Nicobar Port, right?
correct, correct.
Right. Yeah. So I understand that because I believe that something like 70-80% of China's entire traffic, maritime traffic, goes through the Straits of Malacca, and Galathea, or rather Great Nicobar, kind of overlooks that. So in a way, it could be a choke point, even, right? Because
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
strategically speaking, we've heard about China's string of pearls, right? They're building a whole bunch of ports all over the Indian
correct.
Ocean. So this is a, I guess, I mentioned earlier, there's strategic and there's economic. So Nicobar may well be a little bit more on the strategic part, right? So
Yeah, China's actually you mentioned about string of pearls. It's a
yeah,
geopolitical strategy that involves building a series of ports and bases in the Indian Ocean. If you look
right,
at the Indian Ocean, they have
right.
presence in almost, or I would say, they have either built or financed about 17 ports in the Indian Ocean,
Wow.
and it's like a string around India. So it is
Encircling.
real encircling
Yeah,
India.
yeah,
Whereas India has only presence in like military presence or some base like in Chabahar, then in Dukamport and stuff like that. There are maybe around in at 6 locations. And
okay,
now the Galathea Bay and Vadwan will be significantly positioned to looking at our strategic needs apart from
right.
Vizhinjam, which has already come up. So in
Yeah,
that way, we are
yeah.
trying to what do you call create some sort of a defense or to protect our sea
Counter.
routes and yeah,
Yeah.
and for our counterbalance Chinese influence.
Well, it appears to me that, from what I know of geopolitics, there are these
Mm,
theories by a gentleman named Spikeman about
mm,
rimlands, and a gentleman named Alfred Mahan, who talks about sea power, and they're talking about a composite of both merchant navy power as well as military power. And the idea is that whoever dominates the littorals, i.e., the coasts, will dominate the world. And that's actually been correct, hasn't it? If you look at the last couple of centuries, I would say that the 19th century was the Atlantic century, and the 20th century was the Pacific century. So again, you
Now
see
it's the Indian Ocean. Yeah,
it is the Indian Ocean in the 21st century, because in the 19th century, the European powers, right, Britain and France and whatnot, they dominated, and in the 20th, it was absolutely the Americans, and to a certain extent, I guess, the Japanese or Chinese or whatever. But now, 21st century,
Mahan.
so hmm,
Yeah, Mahan theory actually holds good now. I
it
think
does,
promoted by most of the major powers. Uh,
right.
yeah,
You have to dominate the shipping lines, the
the
shipping
shipping
lanes, right?
lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, India has a fairly small percentage of shipbuilding, right? I read somewhere that it's like, I mean, it's really small. Can you talk
It
about
is
that?
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, India's shipbuilding, if you look at the global market, It's
Yeah.
less than 1%, or precisely 0.6% only.
My God,
So
that's nothing.
even very off late, government
Yeah.
have given a lot of emphasis to develop shipyards, to build ships here, because our
Yeah.
ships are standing in the waiting in long queues outside in Chinese and Taiwanese docks for even
Right.
for repairs. So we are significantly behind leaders like China, South Korea, and Japan.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if you look at China, China alone accounts for over 50% of the global market of shipbuilding. And so now, with all these things,
Mm.
With India trying to go forward, India
Mm.
targets a 5% share in the global shipbuilding by 2030, and moving
5%.
towards it
Mm.
top to come within top 10. And by
Mm.
2047, we aim to become within five. So with that sort of like um, um, uh, uh,
Goal.
role
Ambition.
in
Yeah.
mind, ambition in mind, we are
Yeah.
going forward in the sector, which involves a multi-pronged strategy focused on government support,
Yeah.
infrastructure upgrades, modernization, and skill development to achieve this goal by 2047. And we are
Yeah.
going to build new shipyards. You can see in Tamil Nadu, there are one or two shipyards coming. Cochin Shipyard is augmenting their capacities. Cochin
Okay.
Shipyard is going out and investing in other places, in other states, like
Yeah.
Tuticorin, Udupi, Vizag, and things like that. And also
Okay.
efforts to promote research and innovation, smart ships and AI-based navigation. Green shipping is
Okay.
now the trend. So all these
What is
things
it?
are being
What is it? What is
green
green
shipping.
shipping? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this industry is moving towards green fuels,
Okay.
including green hydrogen, methanol, then hybrid propulsion systems and all. So I think
Okay.
all these areas are now a lot of people are involved, a lot of companies are getting involved within India, and it's a huge amount earmarked for
Yeah.
the investment in this sector. I hope things will be in the right place very soon.
Yeah. And in a to speak about our own alma mater, the Ocean Engineering Department and the Naval Architecture Department at IIT Madras are probably playing a big part of this because you need a lot of
Yes,
people trained,
correct.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
They
that's
are
good
into
to know.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have got a lot of projects from government as well as from other startup companies, and they are doing a lot of research in this area, especially in naval architecture and floating bodies.
Right. Now, to just, I wanted to go back to a statement I heard somewhere, which said that Viridium is the Singapore moment for India. Okay, meaning, I guess this person is comparing Singapore and Dubai to what Viridium is capable of. And they said, neither Singapore nor Viridium, I'm sorry, nor Dubai had anything much except for the fact that they had a deep water port and they became financial centers and now see where they are. So can Singapore be a role model for Viridium and Trivandrum to grow?
Of course. See, Singapore, you look at Singapore, it's like a toy city,
Yeah,
and they thrive out of the Changi airport and port. There's no
right.
other activity. And
Yeah,
most of the companies' headquarters are all in Singapore because of these two major infrastructure projects there. And
right,
Singapore is a case of spectacular port-led economic growth success story. You
right,
can't compare Singapore with our ports. We have to go a long way. It is
right,
currently the second largest port in the world in terms of TEU capacity, the
right,
largest transshipment hub. That is, they handled about 42 million TEUs containers, which is
right.
twice the total volume of containers handled by India.
Wow. Okay.
So that is the order of traffic they handle in Singapore, and they are the
Okay.
world leaders in bunkering. So Singapore is connected. You look
Can
at
you explain? Can you explain bunkering because your
see,
viewers may not know what it is?
bunkering is the fuel supply to the vessels, because when large ships they ply on the international shipping routes, they take fuel large quantities
Yeah.
at selected ports. So Singapore is a leader in bunkering. And so they have different types of oil blended to suit the requirements of the various vessels, and large quantities are supplied to various ships. And since
Is that
it
a
falls in the,
lucrative business? Do
it's
you
a
make
lucrative
money?
business. In
Okay.
fact, Vizhinjam, Indian Oil Corporation, Bharat Petroleum Corporation, all the major Indian oil companies in India, they are also
Yeah.
looking at bunkering at Vizhinjam now.
Okay. So that's
And
another
Singapore,
source of revenue.
that's another source of revenue. And
Okay.
Singapore is connected to 600 ports all over the world, spread over 120 countries. You
How
just
do you mean
imagine.
connected? No, how do you mean
Connected
connected?
means they have feeder service or
Hmm.
vessel service. If you drop a container at
Hmm.
Singapore, within 24 to 48 hours, that box will be taken out to be delivered to any part of the world. So you
Okay.
can imagine the frequency of feeder services, the type of feeder operations, the network they have,
Yeah.
and things like that. So transforming Vizhinjam into a
Yeah.
global hub like Singapore involves more than just port infrastructure.
Okay.
Singapore's success is the result of decades of a massive infrastructure investment, efficient regulatory practices, and a developed industrial ecosystem. So we have to
Right.
go a long way, but
A long
we
way.
can keep as a like mirroring the foundational role the Vizhinjam Singapore port has rolled. We can imbibe and we can emulate certain things and go
Right.
forward in seeing how best we can reach
It's a role
Singapore
model.
model.
It's a
It's a
role
role
model,
model.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because I have some relatives who went to Singapore in the 1940s or something, and my belief is that Singapore was not especially an interesting place. There was a British naval facility or something, but now it's literally one of the richest parts of the world, isn't it? And it's a tiny
Yeah.
little island. So if we can learn some good lessons from them. But you mentioned regulatory policies, right? So Singapore is really strong in many regulatory
Yeah,
things, whereas
regulatory
India
things.
may have some difficulty in doing that. As you said, the customs port at Vizhinjam Trivandrum was just set up, so maybe there is more work to be done. And let me just talk about the customs port for a minute. If I understand correctly, the customs point, it'll enable, as you said, crew changes, right? Crew can go offshore and rest and come back. But also, what about tourism? I believe cruise ships are a big draw and maybe a moneymaker for Singapore. What are the plans for Vizhinjam to be a cruise terminal?
Vizhinjam currently, see, we have built only 800 meters long berth, and that
Yeah,
too, it doesn't have space to even accommodate because a lot of ships are waiting outside most of the time. And in the other phases, put together, we will have total 2 kilometers in length. So the cruise terminal is planned in the other subsequent phases at by the side of the breakwater, main breakwater. But if a cruise vessel has to come, the cranes can be shifted to move to one side, and a cruise vessel can come in if a need arises. But that is not a dedicated cruise terminal is planned only in the subsequent phases. But definitely, there is a good potential for cruise, and and Government of India offers a lot of incentives to take up cruise operations in all the
well, I mean
ports.
that's also very helpful for the local economy, isn't it? Because a
Yeah, yeah.
cruise ship probably has like three
Hospitality,
thousand people,
hospitality, yeah,
right?
hospitality,
Tourism,
hotels, and yeah, tourism and all these things in
right?
places. And
But
now there
but
are some Cordelia, some cruise operators are already come in and they plan to have some circuits between Cochin, Lakshadweep, Maldives, Mumbai,
right,
and there are
circuit,
plans like that.
yeah, circuits like
So,
that.
yeah, people are also talking to Vizhinjam authorities as well as the Kerala Maritime Board
Okay.
to see whether they can do something to set up or start to cruise vessel operation.
Okay. But going back to Singapore, one more question. You mentioned how they're very efficient, and within 24 to 48 hours, they can, move a container from the mother vessel to another feeder ship. How would you compare Vizhinjam? I don't know if that's an unfair question. How efficient is Vizhinjam port based on the statistics so far? How much time does it take? And I believe it's highly automated, so I imagine it's relatively efficient. But can you comment on that?
Yeah, with regard to operational efficiency, Vizhinjam has got the state-of-the-art cranes. Each the cranes are from SZPMC China, and that is each costing about 80-85 crores, which has an outreach of 74 meters. and it's the tallest crane or the largest crane, I would say, in the world. Now, this is quite very efficient, and they have a fully automated terminal working on AI built environment and stuff like that. So in terms of operational efficiency, both Singapore and Vizhinjam can also cope up with Singapore either immediately or in a very short time. But it's not the question. Here at Vizhinjam, maximum in all the 4 phases, we'll have only 2 kilometers length of the berth. Whereas Vizhinjam in the next, right now they have about 22 kilometers long berth, 22 kilometers. Singapore. And they're adding another 24 kilometers, which it will be like 40, more than 40 kilometers. So the question is volumes. So once large volumes come, the feedering, the what do you call, the frequency of feedering, all this will have to be added. So that scale of operation may not be there in Vizhinjam, at least now, because it's a landlocked place. You cannot go on extending the berths unless you go offshore and build a facility there.
Offshore. I mean, just as a question in that context, what are the major problems? I mean, is land acquisition a big issue? Because you remember, as you mentioned, there were a lot of protests when the port was first being set up and so on. Has that sort of been solved at this point, or are we continuing to find land a big issue?
See, land acquisition, of course, the major portion of the land acquired was away, that is 2 kilometers away from the port, about 200 acres. And about around 30 acres was acquired just along the coast. And 130 acres for the first phase was created by reclamation. The dredging, whatever capital dredging was required, that was used. At about 7 million cubic meters of dredging was involved. That was used to create this land. So altogether, about 360 acres in the first phase is already in place. There were problems in acquiring the land. And you must note that there is not even a single fisherman has been evicted as a result of the port development. Only the livelihood losses have occurred, and that have been compensated by the government. And then you talked about the protest. The protest was mainly saying that as a result of the port development, the coastal areas north of the port gets eroded, and things like the Balyatura area, that is 13 kilometers, 14 kilometers north of the port, gets eroded. That's all unfounded. All the allegations were unfounded, and that has been proven. Even during the construction of the breakwater for the port, the road leading to the airport collapsed. So then people attributed this to the development of Vizhinjam port, which has the breakwater has just started only 500, 600 meters. Now it has completed 3 kilometers. But people have forgotten that during the years 2003, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 16, the same phenomenon occurred. The Shangubam road collapsed much before the port was started or was thought in mind, or even the construction started.
There's probably a natural cycle.
It's a natural cycle. Here there is a regular pattern that during the southwest monsoon, which is perpendicular to the coast, it carves away the beach. And the northeastern monsoon, it's relatively very swells and long period waves. They build the beach. But what happened is during 2017, when the Oki occurred, there was a massive carving out because of high frequency waves, which carved out more quantity. As a result, the northeastern monsoon, the waves could not build the beach in the regular usual pattern as before. So what happened when it was building the beach, the next monsoon came in and again it washed off. So like that, this procedure went, and only after 4 or 5 years after the port, and now you can see the beach has come back. So now there is, it is proved. Even before the construction started, all the numerical, mathematical model studies were carried out, and we very categorically we said that as a result of the port development, there will not be any erosion. But nobody gave a what do you call listening.
Nobody believed you.
Believed, and they went on for protests. probably due to a lot of vested interests and all.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all subsided. Now the breakwater is complete with 3 kilometers, and the question of erosion or accretion has not been heard nowadays.
Okay.
So
Yeah, this
that
is
was a regular phenomenon much before, even before the port commenced construction.
okay. This was actually a question also from a gentleman whose name I can't see, whether erosion is attributable to the port. So,
Hmm.
since we have a few
Yeah,
questions,
yeah, one more thing, because since
yeah,
you asked this question,
yeah,
and on a linear coast, if you put any obstruction,
yeah,
and the erosion and accretion occurs depending upon the wave intensity and the wave direction. And in
mm-hmm.
any case, the influence of erosion or accretion cannot happen beyond 10 times the length of the projection.
I see. Okay,
So suppose the breakwater, this is only hardly 0.8 kilometers going perpendicular, and then it takes a turn. So if you multiply zero point 0.8 into 10 times, maximum 8, within 8 kilometers, it has to occur even in a linear coast. But
okay,
this coast is not linear. On the northern side of the port, you have lot of promontories and
yeah,
pocket beaches, which cannot create any sort of erosion or accretion further north of this without touching this place, this
okay,
coast. So this is all unfounded.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
see, sometimes you have, overly ambitious environmental fights. Because I was reading somewhere there was the newspaper article about this saying, it's attributable to Virginia, and I didn't believe it. But thank you for clarifying that. And let me ask another question that came up. This is from Dr. Gangan Pratap, who, by the way, was a Singaporean, and he asks, the earliest DPR in 2004 should have anticipated the road and rail connectivity to Viridium. Why did not that happen in, in,
It
in
was
terms of the
considered.
gateway?
It was considered.
Hmm.
It was considered, and that was also part of the DPR prepared
Yeah.
by L&T. At that time, the option for rail connectivity was to different options were tried, Neyatingara and Balrampuram. So finally, it was zoomed down to Balrampuram, and the road
Okay.
connectivity was also envisaged. Without the
Okay.
road connectivity and rail connectivity, it is not complete. The port.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because I was personally involved in the preparation of the DPR in
DPR. Okay.
2004. L&T Ramboll did the project DPR. So all
Right.
these things were taken into consideration.
Okay. Another question from Kanmani Shankar. He says, or she, how does Viridium fare in a head to head comparison with Colombo in terms of proximity to the shipping lanes, the depth, the draft, and transshipment, automation, and other operational capability? Okay, and then he asks this question, what percentage of Colombo traffic does Viridium target to take? So I guess my
William,
answer is 100%, right? So,
100% targets. But
yeah,
again, one thing we should not forget, that the same operator or developer,
Adani. Yeah.
Adani, is operating a terminal in Colombo port.
Yeah, one of
Where,
two, right? The other is
yeah,
a
one of the
Chinese
two.
terminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the two. So now, but here one thing we should, what I personally feel is the cake is quite large.
Mm-hmm.
The cargo is going to increase, and
Right.
there will be enough transshipment potential, even if Colombo expands to its fullest capacity, or Vizhinjam goes
Yeah.
to its fullest capacity, or Galatia Bay goes. The cake is quite large,
Okay.
and
So the pie can expand. Okay.
you need to have more ports coming in, like
Yeah.
in China.
Well,
China, you have 34 major ports
wow.
and 2,000 minor
Minor port.
ports.
Okay.
And out of the
Yeah.
20, the major the top 20 ports, 6 ports in China, they are transshipment ports
Okay. Okay. Yeah, but they live on trade, right? So that
on
makes
trade.
sense.
So
Right.
we can live with our good neighbors peacefully with our own requirements, and whoever wants to come to Belgium, they will have that advantage of cost. They will have the cost advantage savings from the shipping and per TEU cost of containers, whether loading or unloading.
And let me
So
ask
it's
another
all the
question that
cost. Yeah.
that context. See, is Colombo close to the shipping lines, or I would imagine Vizhinjam is closer to the main shipping
Both
line?
both are almost same. It
Almost the
takes
same.
1 to 2 hours, but the geopolitical risks are more in Colombo as far as
Colombo.
Indian cargo is concerned.
What about again in the case of Sri Lanka? What about Hambantota, which really didn't take off, right? Why was that? That would have seemed to be a
Ambanchota, yeah, was the southern terminal, southern
yeah,
point of
yeah.
Colombo. Actually, there were a lot of deaths, and Chinese came in to clear the debts, and there were confusion in
Okay,
giving it to Chinese.
okay.
So
Was
I
it a
think
is it a
still
container? Is it a container port or not?
it is a container port.
Okay,
It's a container port. Yeah.
okay,
So
right.
actually, Colombo for the last 2 or 3 decades, they are thriving out of Indian cargo. We didn't
Indian
notice it.
cargo.
We didn't
Right.
notice it. We noticed it off late, only early 2000. But again,
Okay.
to materialize that transshipment, deep water transshipment board, it took a lot of time, only in
Too much.
2015. So
Actually,
that is,
that you were saying to me that this idea of a deep water port has been there for a long time, maybe 30, 40 years, CP Ramaswamy Iyer's time and so on. But it's with the arrival of containerization to this extent that it became critical, right? So,
yeah. No, Vizhinjam is known for international trade activity 2000 years ago, as I said. Um,
yeah,
that
the I
I,
Kings.
I
Yeah,
kingdoms and other places, like along with Baruch and
Muziris.
Musuris,
Yeah,
the Vizhinjam was also actively trading with the Arabs, Chinese, Romans, and all. But
yeah.
and Sir C.P. Ramaswamy wanted to develop it as an ordinary port. That is
Okay.
in the 1940s, but didn't
Yeah,
take off. Then,
yeah,
when the democratically elected government came this side from the early 90s, the concept of developing the port started. But again, it was
yeah,
not for transshipment. We didn't.
yeah.
Nobody thought of transshipment.
Okay, it's a
Only in
gateway
the
port.
early 2000, yeah, gateway port. Like because of the considering the deep waters and the
Yeah,
shipping lines and all, we wanted to develop it as a regular. But
yeah.
only in early 2000, when the first project report was prepared, this was discussed and debated in detail, and
Okay.
the necessity was felt and to counter Colombo. And
Yeah.
at the same time, Cochin Port also took up the argument of developing Valarpadam,
Right.
and they also came up with this terminal. But
Right.
unfortunately, because of shallow waters, they couldn't dredge more than
Okay.
14.5 meters.
Okay.
That means more than 6,000 or 7,000 TEU vessel cannot enter Cochin.
Only
So
small
yeah,
vessels, small
small
feeder
vessels.
vessels.
So that it can maximum serve as a mega feeder port to Vizhinjam or
Brilliant.
Bardwan in the future. That's all. But
Yeah, I
it
wanted
can
to
never become a deep water container transshipment port.
I
So
wanted to come back to Cochin in a minute because I've got a question from Philip in Cochin. But yeah, I wanted to give you a small historical snippet as well, because the Vizhinjam port was the I port, right? And I believe about 1,000 years ago, uh, Rajaraja Chola, he was a Chola, and they're competing with the Cheras. I believe he came to the Vizhinjam port and attacked the Kantalur Shala, which was a great university in those days.
university, yes, yeah, yeah.
University. So this is an interesting story. This is Rajaraja Chola's first expedition, and it came actually to Vizhinjam. But anyway, let me move on to this question from Philip. He says, for an exporter from Kerala, currently the ships from Cochin uh, uh, are shifted to Tuticorin, and from there, I assume motherships come to Tuticorin and pick up the cargo and take it to Colombo, and from there the mothership picks up. So I think what he's saying, it takes a couple of steps to
Handling and yeah,
handling, right? Which is
double
a
handling or triple handling. But now
it's
with the gate, with the ICP and the status is given to Vizhinjam, and
yeah,
now gateway traffic is possible. I think in
yeah,
a very short time,
yeah,
this problem can be alleviated with
yeah.
the cargo can come to Vizhinjam, and from here directly it can be taken to the mother vessel to
One
wherever
hop,
it's required.
single hop, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
single hub.
yeah,
Yeah.
Philip says, I assume this flow will change and will reduce the freight cost for an Indian exporter.
It
And
all
here,
depends upon, yeah, it
yeah,
all depends upon the combination and permutation. Even if
okay,
you drop a box at Vizhinjam at
yeah,
the initial stages, it may not go as that fast because your vessel service
connects,
touching here, connecting here. Now
yeah,
it's all MSC.
yeah,
Different
okay,
other vessels also should come taking it to the other parts of the world. So
okay,
if when such what do you call services start, I think then it becomes a smooth operation whereby all sorts of permutations and combinations can be tried.
Oh, so now it's only MSC, is it? Not the
MSC,
other.
yeah, has taken. And I think another vessel from US, from the Norfolk port has come last
Okay.
month. I just
Okay.
heard today that,
Okay.
yeah, one ship has come from US,
Okay.
Norfolk port.
So here's a question from Mr. Karmachandran. He says, "What is the cost advantage for vessels to come to Vizhinjam compared to Sri Lanka for transshipment?"
Indian cargo, there will be a tremendous difference
Yeah.
because per container, there will be a savings of about $200, 200
Okay.
to $250 per container if it is if transshipment is done in Cochin, in
Vizhinjam.
Trivandrum, Vizhinjam.
Okay.
Whereas
Okay.
if you go to Sri Lanka, there will be double handling. Then the transshipment costs, everything put together, it adds to lot of cost.
Okay. So two
So
hundred
definitely,
dollars is
it's
a
not.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not at all economical to take it to Colombo. But
Okay.
if there is, depending upon the service, suppose if somebody wants to send a cargo immediately and where the service is available only from Colombo, naturally it has to be taken
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, it all depends upon now
Depends
with
on
all the AI
urgency.
and
Yeah.
all the data, EDP and things in process. The shipping agents, the consign, the producers, manufacturers,
They'll figure it out.
everyone can have a look at it and they can
Yeah.
choose whichever option they want.
Here's a question from Mr. CMA Nair. It says, "What could be the impact of subsidence? Are there any problems related to coastal erosion and accretion?" I guess you actually answered this question already when you talked about yeah,
There is
erosion.
hardly any erosion or accretion as a result of this port.
Okay.
100% I can say, and there are a lot of documents, and there's a committee. There are two committees appointed by the Supreme Court. They
Yeah.
conduct every 6 months. They come to field. They do a complete analysis of the last 6 months data, and
Yeah.
so far they have not reported any sort of erosion adverse or any adverse impacts as a result of the port so far.
Okay.
That means it
Okay.
is 2016, the NGT issued a speaking order setting
Yeah.
aside all the appeals and all those things, complaints. And
Okay.
they came out with the speaking order, and that committees are in place even now.
Okay.
And this will go on whenever for the whole period
For
the
the
port is in operation.
foreseeable future. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Karma asks another question. What is the scope for the logistics industry around the port so that Trivandrum people
Tremendous,
can also
tremendous.
benefit? Yeah.
Tremendous potential because see now and looking at the potential the way in which the Vizhinjam port will grow, government has come out with an outer area growth corridor concept. Like encircling Trivandrum city,
Mm.
connecting Vizhinjam with the Navaikulam, the northern
Mm.
part of Trivandrum.
Right.
It is a 80 kilometers long outer
Ring road.
ring road with
Right.
2.5 kilometers on either sides for setting up various types of zones, industrial
Okay.
zones, services zones, MSME clusters, IT zones, and things like that. So,
Okay.
and land acquisition has started. Apart from that, Vizhinjam International Seaport Limited has also going in for port-led industrialization, whereby land acquisition is already started, and
Okay.
where people can come and set up CF stations, logistic parks or district parks, depending upon them. There will be tremendous scope for all these activities.
Now,
A lot
I
of
read somewhere
ancillary
that
activities. Yeah.
they're anticipating maybe 2 lakh jobs that'll come directly from the
No,
logistics industry.
directly now around 5,000 jobs
No, I'm
directly, and yeah. And once the port is developed, see, there will be a lot of indirect jobs
right.
which may not, it's not possible to estimate now.
Forecast.
And with a
Yeah.
lot of
No,
skilling,
I meant indirectly. I didn't mean directly.
indirectly, yeah.
Indirectly. Yeah.
Lot of this, you take a, if suppose if there's a crew change or the crew coming in,
Yeah.
how many hotels are required?
Right. Right.
The vehicles, the transport
Right.
arrangements, container repairing, manufacturing, underwater repairs to the ships afloat. And
Right.
that is a very, very urgent requirement. When the ships are at the berth,
Yeah.
a lot of services have to be attended. Supplying
Right.
provisions to ships.
Yeah.
And there's N number of jobs and there's N number of potential like
Opportunities there. Yeah.
opportunities available. Only
No,
thing
that
is you
just
have to look for the right opportunity and ban.
In fact, an interesting, just a side comment here. There's a small startup, not a so small, just a startup from Cochin called iRav. One of the principals in IIT Madras guy. They build
Yeah,
underwater drones. You know them, right? So
yeah.
they can go offer inspection services,
We
right?
wanted to use
Yeah.
those drones for our breakwater inspections,
Right.
because breakwater, when you construct, we have to
Yeah.
see whether the artificial blocks are laid to lines and levels to in the
Okay.
proper desired fashion. But
Right.
the problem with the IRO thing is because of the construction, the water is murky and the
Okay.
visibility was poor.
It's poor.
So we
Right.
didn't deploy at that point of time, or we didn't use them at that
Okay.
point of time. But in the
Because
future,
it's an
uh,
example of indirect employment and
yes, in that
services.
environment, startups, not only
Right.
that, optical scanning.
Okay.
There's another startup in Kochi, Maker Vision, called Docker Vision.
Okay.
And they scan the containers instantaneously, and
Yeah.
they send the data to all the clients and the shipping lines and all immediately within seconds. They
I'm
process
really
the
happy to
data.
hear that because I was
Yeah.
one of the people who set up Maker Village in the first place, in electronics
Okay, okay.
incubator.
So,
Right.
and they got 1 crore grant from Cochin Shipyard
Okay.
with scrutiny by IIT Madras, and so
Okay.
they are on the job. They are doing
Okay.
very nicely now. Mm.
Yeah, we got another 4 minutes, so let me just move through a couple more questions. Philip says, when motherships come with about 30,000 container capacity, will our port have enough containers to feed them? And will it come from Indian exporters or will exporters from neighboring countries send cargo to our port for transshipment?
See,
So,
when you talk about very large vessels like 24, right now there is no 30,000 TEU vessel. The
yeah,
maximum is 24,500. But a
right.
24,500 vessel coming to Vizhinjam or any port for that matter
Hmm.
will not unload the whole containers
Entire
at
thing.
that port.
Right.
Maybe 500 or 1,000 or 1,200, maybe the containers to be dropped at Vizhinjam.
Yeah.
And the purpose of accommodating these vessels is because these mother vessels, they travel at a predetermined route. So
Okay.
they go to the deep water ports and unload the cargo there, from where the feeder vessels pick up the cargo and go to the other ports or other destinations. It doesn't mean that the entire cargo is to be unloaded, unloaded at a particular port.
Okay.
Even the
Just a
Irina
few.
came.
Yeah.
Irina came. Only a
Yeah.
maximum 800 boxes were to be downloaded here
Right.
or discharged here.
Right.
Yeah.
I have another question from Jasper Lal who says, is the
Mm.
problem at Mudalapuri
Mm.
really related to Vizhinjam Port? And I think you've
Nothing,
answered that.
absolutely nothing. Even nothing is happening to at Vallezur or Vizhinjam. And how come 35 kilometers away, Mudalapuri
Is
can
affected.
do as a
Yeah.
result of the sport?
Okay.
Mudalapuri is a different ball game. It's a different problem they encounter
Okay.
because of lack of sediment bypassing, because of
Okay.
that shoaling has happened. Yeah.
All right. So you also were an advocate of wave energy, right? Wave. You did your your projects at IIT Madras. Will you do you see offshore wave power plants coming up in the near future?
Uh, Definitely, yes. Offshore wind power plants, it's fine. It's floating.
Yeah.
See, in fact, the government of India sponsored and a project by the then Department of Ocean Development. And
Yeah.
the project was implemented by IIT Wave Energy Group in the Ocean Center.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was part of that group. And
Right.
that was to conduct investigations to do research on wave energy devices and come out with a sea trial.
Yeah.
So the culmination of the laboratory investigations resulted in a sea trial of Vizhinjam, which was a
Right.
150 kilowatt wave energy device installed off Vizhinjam at 10 to 12 meters water depth. You can see
Right.
the remnants at the tip of the breakwater. So
Okay.
that was pumped power to the grid, and that was working on an oscillating water column principle fixed to the seabed. And that
Okay.
was first of its kind in the world at that point of time. At that
Hmm.
time, India, uh, Japan, and Norway were the pioneers in wave energy. But
Hmm.
several hundreds of patents have been developed world over now,
Okay.
mostly on floating devices. In
Okay.
fact, a floating device, another device is being planned at Vizhinjam along with an American company called
Company.
Oscilla, with
Okay.
government of India and IIT Madras, government of Kerala and IIT Madras. So
Yeah.
here, while pilot wave power plants exist and technology is rapidly evolving, Large-scale grid-connected plants are not imminent, but could
Okay.
materialize in a few years with policy changes, cost improvements, and infrastructure investments and support of the government. So we have to wait for some more
Wait
time
for that.
for
Okay.
commercial wave power plants floating to be
Okay.
set up.
We're pretty much out of time, Dr. Jayakumar. Any last thoughts on Viridium and its prospects and so on before
I
we
think
conclude?
Viridium is heading for a substantial growth, targeting a dramatic increase in the nation's share of global maritime commerce by 2047. That's
Okay.
the mission of the government of India. This port is a game changer, definitely, for India's maritime industry, as it provides a strategic location for transshipment, reducing the country's resilience on foreign ports like Singapore and Colombo. So
Right.
now
Reliance
the
too.
time has
Okay.
come
Yeah.
to take back the cargo which goes to Singapore, Colombo, and
Colombo.
Singapore now. Of course,
Great.
Singapore cargo can go to Galatea Bay too.
All right.
You have to complement each other. Yeah.
Right. So thank you very much for a very enlightening talk here. I appreciate your thoughts, and I'm sure all the people who attended are also very thankful to you. So we'll close here. Thank you once again. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah.